Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Flying Fluffy Football stream. And today we finally have some Dolphins roster cuts to talk about. The deadline for the 53-man roster cuts is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So the Dolphins have started making roster cuts, and I'll be discussing the implications of those roster cuts and keeping an eye on them as we continue to get more news. There is one piece of Commanders related news. Terry McLaurin got paid. He gets a 3-year extension with the Commanders worth up to $96 million. And it includes a $30 million signing bonus. So there is a website that I found where it's keeping live track of all the cuts. Give me a second. Here we go. All right. So I found the list. I found the list of roster cuts that was last updated at 2:30. Hello, Spaceman. Hello, Patelron. How you both doing? So now we can talk about the players that have been cut from the 53-man roster. So the Dolphins have cut running backs Aaron Champlin and Mike Boone. So in other words, both of the guys that were signed as training camp bodies for the running back room, especially after the Achane and Wright injuries, they both were cut. Tight ends Pharaoh Brown and Chris Myrick were also cut. So it looks like the tight ends room is going to be primarily Darren Waller and Julian Hill. AJ Henning got cut from the wide receiver room. The offensive line and offensive tackle Jalen McKenzie and the three different offensive linemen, Jackson Carman, Mason Brooks, and Addison West, were all cut. Ben Still, the defensive tackle, was cut. The big story is among the cornerbacks being cut, which includes Ethan Robinson and Cameron Dantzler. The Dolphins have cut cornerback Mike Hilton, who was apparently brought in to compete for the starting nickel job, but got outplayed by the rookie Jason Marshall Jr. And with these cuts, it is looking like that the cornerback one to start the season will be Storm Duck, And I think the other starting corner is projected to be Jack Jones. And Jason Marshall Jr. can't be very far behind the depth chart. The Dolphins have chosen to go young with the cornerback room. So whether that's a wise decision will be yet to be seen. Again, we still got just over 24 hours until the deadline is reached for the 53-man roster. So Terry McLaurin reached a 3-year deal worth up to $96 million. So it's good to know that the Commanders are actually smart now and will pay their players. David says, "Kyle, how you doing, sir? Great jersey. Thanks. Yeah, this is my dad's had this Zach Thomas jersey for a while. It's the only jersey of his that actually fits me. Yeah, with the 98 Dolphins logo." So I found this article on ESPN that that is pretty hilarious. They are trying to predict 10 team offers for players and draft picks. So these are all trades that would be taking place before the season starts. And one of those trades has the Bengals trading Trey Hendrickson to the Eagles in exchange for Jalen Hunt's a third-round pick and another conditional pick. I think no offense to Howie Roseman, but I think even Bill Zito would have difficulty striking up such a obviously one-sided trade. Could you imagine the uproar in Cincinnati if the league leader in sacks from last year was traded for another player and a couple of picks? And the another proposed trade here is that the Steelers trade for Anthony Richardson and the Colts get a 4th-round pick. This has to be some kind of troll list, right? This guy can't be serious. The Raiders get quarterback Mike White, and the Bills get a 6th-round pick. Again, these are all proposed trades on ESPN. The Giants, Chargers, and Cardinals do a 3-way trade where the Chargers get Evan Neal, the Cardinals get Quentin Johnston, and the Giants get a 7th-round pick. Or Adam Thielen reunites with the Vikings in exchange for a 6th and 7th-round pick going back to the Panthers. David Smith says that's my favorite Dolphin all time. David says, trade you Tua for Burrow, please. You can have all our picks the next 3 years and Tua. I do not believe Tua is the issue right now with the Dolphins. That is, provided he actually stays healthy. The biggest flaws I see in this iteration of the Dolphins this season is a highly young and inexperienced cornerback room, and also questionable depth, especially with the cornerback room. So yeah, there hasn't been any other additional cuts. So I think the most surprising one so far has been Mike Hilton. And apparently Pharaoh Brown and Chris Myrick, the tight ends, have also been cut. So I am a little concerned because Pharaoh Brown was signed this offseason to compete with Julian Hill for the team's blocking tight end spot after they released Durham Smythe, who signed with the Bears. And apparently Pharaoh Brown struggled mightily in the preseason, according to Sports Illustrated. He was having trouble with all of his motion responsibilities, missing blocks at the second level and not getting much push at the first level. Brown also doesn't add much to the receiver room, so his blocking was really the only way for him to stick in South Florida. How bad do you have to be to lose your blocking tight end job to Julian Hill? You know how much Julian Hill has been clowned on by the Dolphins fans in recent years? Crazy Dolphins says, I just subscribed. Welcome, Kyle, to the Miami Dolphins commentary. Hey, thank you. Thank you for subscribing. That's awesome. It's great to have you join us. So, yeah, I'm Kyle, and basically this year, I'm all but running the football channel. This is Flying Fluffy Football, and yeah, my dad and I will be streaming every single Dolphins games along with any other games we decide are interesting enough. David says, okay, I gotta pretend to work again. Great to see you, Kyle. Great to see you too, David. La Cocina de Jose says, fins up from Puerto Rico. Hey, it's great. Yes, we have someone joining us from Puerto Rico. That's pretty awesome. Thank you for joining me. Crazy Dolphin says, so it's Julian Hill, Tanner Connor. Don't forget our projected starting tight ends, Darren Waller. Remember the dude who came out from retirement to sign with the Dolphins? Actually, it was a trade. The Giants received, I think, a late round draft pick back for him. So yeah, right now there hasn't been any other cuts to speak of. Let me see if I can find an up to the minute accurate 53 man roster. It might be impossible. Yeah, not even the Dolphins website has a completely accurate list. Damn. No worries, crazy Dolphin. La Casina says we will be at the Patriots game. Big group coming down from Puerto Rico. It's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. It's always fun to be at Hard Rock Stadium for one of those division rivalry games. I cannot believe that weeks 2 through 4 they made all of our division rivalry games, and it gets better because after a home game at week 2 against the Patriots, then the Dolphins have to play Thursday night at Buffalo. Crazy Dolphin says undrafted Jalen Conyers is hidden on injury reserves. Smart move. So he's a tight end, and he's injured right now. Well, will be interested to see with the tight ends is if Darren Waller actually gives us the receiving help we need in that position, or if this is another Odell Beckham Jr. situation. Like, didn't Odell Beckham Jr. do next to nothing as a Dolphin? So yeah, Jalen Conyers is apparently a tight end prospect essentially for the Dolphins. So the Dolphins still have to make a ton of cuts to the roster, right? With this list of cuts, do you think there are any cuts here that concern you? Whether it be cutting both Mike Hilton and Ethan Robinson, or cutting Pharaoh Brown and Chris Myrick in the tight end room. Cameron Dantzler always struck me as basically just a body to fill in a gap in training camp. Daniel says, "Happy Monday. Hey everyone. Hello, Daniel Barry. How you doing?" Apparently, with Aiden O'Connell fracturing his wrist and being sidelined 6 to 8 weeks, Raiders head coach Pete Carroll said the team is now in the market for a backup quarterback and is looking for an experienced player who can help us. So, oh yeah, I wonder if any of you heard about Shiloh Sanders being waived by the Buccaneers after being stupid enough to punch someone or throw a punch at someone in a preseason game. There's apparently no sign of Micah Parsons during the open portion of practice to the media. Been another big news story. Is Micah Parsons was pictured laying down on a medical table, basically just chillaxed and stretching out on the during the Cowboys' last preseason game. Crazy Dolphin says Mohamed Kamara should be cut. Mohamed Kamara. You want the linebacker to be cut? Well, we'll be about to find out. Matthew Matthew Judon Matthew Judon being signed to the linebacker room probably means that one of the other linebackers in the room is getting cut. It's just a matter of finding out which one. Apparently, Raiders wide receiver Jacoby Myers recently met with team brass and requested to be traded. So now, so now there is a wide receiver who is who has appeared potentially on the trade market. The team, citing his value, said they had no plans to do so. Myers and the team attempted to negotiate a new contract, but could not come to terms. So, so now wants to be traded. That could make things interesting. BC Dolphins says Kamara has been a no-show all last season and this season, and it might be Cameron Goods who gets cut. Well, right now, what it appears like is the Dolphins are cutting all of the expendable bodies. Now, I'm not quite familiar. I'm not quite familiar. There is a 53-man roster and a 16-man practice squad. Is that correct? So it is possible that one or two of the veterans who just got cut from the 53-man roster might be re-signed to the practice squad, which would make sense. Perhaps a guy like Mike Hilton, who just got cut off the 53-man roster, might return to the practice squad. And don't forget the other aspect to this is the Dolphins will be paying close attention to who gets cut. Who gets cut from other teams, because the Dolphins might be adding one or two or three more corners between now and before week 2, because teams who sign a player before week 1, those players' contracts are fully guaranteed for the whole year. But players signed after week 1, their contracts for the year are not fully guaranteed. So the Dolphins might be waiting to see who gets cut and how things look after week 1. Now, why would Nick Chubb be a top cut or traded? I know he suffered that injury. Is he no longer considered one of the top? Will Kunkel on Twitter a few hours ago posted that he asked Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans about his faith in running back Nick Chubb as an every down back. Quote, "He looks better each week, especially when we got the pads on. He has the explosion and speed to make plays in this league. I am very impressed with Chubb." That does not sound like how a coach would describe a player that's about to get cut or traded. So D'Amico Ryans has also declined to up Joe Mixon's status as he deals with an ankle injury. So the Dolphins are not the only team where running back injuries has presented another player with an opportunity. Ollie Gordon might legitimately end up as running back two if Jalen Wright can't do enough to convince the team to keep his running back two job. Let's see. Crazy Dolphins says cornerback is a big need with other teams making their cuts. Do I see the Dolphins signing up more corners after this? It might not be until after week one or until after the 53-man roster cuts have been done. Why is Mike Hilton gone? Well, apparently he was a great slot corner, but he has become a liability with his inability to do deep coverage. His long story short is apparently Mike Hilton is so cooked that the younger options in guys like Storm Duck were better options. Mike Hilton was specifically brought in to replace Kayer Kohu, apparently, in the nickel position. But Jason Marshall Jr., the rookie, apparently outplayed Mike Hilton throughout the preseason. Yes, Storm Duck season. Hello, Colin. How you doing? Yeah, it's Storm Duck season. The Barry Jackson literally just posted that McDaniel said Austin Jackson is, quote, still on the steady path to week one, barring any setbacks. He has no timetable yet on Liam Eichenberg, who remains on the physically unable to perform list. So yeah, that's your update on Austin Jackson. Apparently, he's good to go for week one, barring any setbacks. Crazy Dolphin says safety Nick Needham was cut by the Browns, and we should bring him in for a tryout. Plus, he's a former Dolphin. Um, do the Dolphins really need safety? I mean, we did get Minka back. We got Mika Fitzpatrick back. Oh, wait. Nick Needham is a cornerback. So Nick Needham got released by the Browns, and former Dolphins player and Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley was also released by the Browns. Yeah, the Dolphins released Pharaoh Brown tight end, and also Chris Myrick tight end. Pacharo, we have tight ends. We have Darren Waller, Julian Hill, and Tanner Connor. Those are tight ends. Pharaoh Brown, buddy, how are you so bad at being a blocking tight end that you lose your job to Julian Hill? The dude that Dolphins fans routinely want ejected into the sun for all the flags he draws. Hold on. Confirm what Pacharo just told me about Jalen Wright. Jalen. Oh. Finn's Extra. Well, this was a little bit ago. Jalen Wright is not expected to feature in the season opener versus the Colts, per Mike McDaniel. So, congratulations, Ollie Gordon. You're going to be running back number 2. Yay! I mean, it sucks for Jalen Wright that he got hurt, but Ollie Gordon. Ollie. Now, please, for love of God, let Achane be 100%. We don't need Ollie Gordon to be immediately thrust into running back 1 duty. So, yeah, unfortunately, yet another injury to the running back room. It's almost convenience how any guy who would have potentially competed with the rookie for the running back 2 spot is now either out for the season or will be missing week 1. I guess the football gods might have forced the Dolphins' hand. I mean, Ollie Gordon has just shot up in value in fantasy by a whole lot, because if Ollie Gordon does anything special in week 1, Jalen Wright might never get that running back 2 job back. Pacharo says they said Achane should be fine for week 1. He better be. Also, Jason also missed games with injury. That sucks. It's not a season ender, and there's going to be no surgery to find a new kicker for now. Where are they going to get a kicker? So yeah, McDaniel said it's undetermined if Jalen Wright will need surgery, but he doesn't see an extended absence. So there you have it. So Gordon will be running back 2. And we also will not have Jason Sanders for week 1 at least. Who is going to be the kicker? Crazy Dolphin says Achan has to be careful with his sore calf muscle because of the possibility of an Achilles injury. Well, that probably means that Ollie Gordon will be getting more touches than the running back 2 would normally be getting, because Achan might still be banged up or needing to take it easy. So the Dolphins have to go sign a kicker now. So yes, apparently a couple days ago it was reported Liam Eichenberg is not expected to return from injury in the near future. Quotes from McDaniel: I don't foresee him being immediate return. I don't foresee it being season long. Apparently, Achan is expected to return to practice before the season opener. Colin says, I play you twice in fantasy. Um, you played against me twice in fantasy. Are you referring to previous fantasy seasons, Colin? Because I only remember playing fantasy football last year, and I hadn't done it for a while before that point. Who are the free agent kickers right now? So, with Mike Hilton being cut, it means that Dolphins rookie Jason Marshall Jr. could be in line to start the opener for Miami. Colin says, I play you twice for this season. Week, I think week 13 or 12. Well, that's cool. I didn't I didn't realize that the schedule had been set. Yeah. Hey, speaking of Colin, and if any of the other members of the Flying Fluffy Fantasy Football League over on ESPN, if any of you are in the chat right now, it's only 12 teams. Um, yeah, I sort of talked my dad out of 20 teams because one, it was looking like that there were not going to be 20 people showing up, and two, I did some research, and 20 team fantasy leagues are nuts, especially with the fantasy construction, the fantasy roster that my dad chose for the league. Quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, which means in a 20-team league, it would mean some poor sap is stuck starting running back number 40 in the league, or tight ends number 20. Yeah, 12 or 16 teams would be a good number. Right now the league has been capped at 12 teams. Let's see. So I I would I would like to ask on the topic of the fantasy. Right now that league is PPR scoring, but I guess the default settings, quarterback passing touchdowns only count for 4 points instead of 6. And I read it was because something about making it so that quarterbacks aren't disproportionately more valuable compared to other positions. But I'm of the opinion that a touchdown should always count as 6 points, and essentially nerfing passing touchdowns in favor of rushing and receiving touchdowns doesn't make sense. I get why passing yards is only 1 point for every 25 yards instead of a point for every 10 yards, but passing touchdowns. Colin says it's fair enough to have it at 4 points passing touchdowns. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the world for me. I already know what my drafting strategy is going to be, and I would probably pick, or if in one of the early rounds, I would pick a quarterback. I would pick a quarterback that can also run the ball. Hey Rosado, how you doing, buddy? Hey Rosado, yeah, the Stanley Cup was at Disney World. I will have to take a closer look at the pictures. I saw Evan Rodriguez took the cup there and even got some Remy plush rats to put in the cup at the France Pavilion in the World Showcase at Epcot. Now here's a question for the fantasy league. Right now, my dad has the league set up so there are no divisions. It's all one giant 12 team conference, and he made it so that 6 players made the playoffs. Now, I guess in the past I've been used to having divisions in the league. This is a question for those of you in the fantasy league right now. Would you prefer to have the league remain one giant conference, or would you have it be split up into, say, 3 divisions of 4 teams and have the division winners make the playoffs, and then like the 3 next best teams based on records make the playoffs? Because I think right now, as it's set up in the big conference, it would be going by overall records. The top 6 teams would make the playoffs. Yeah, Rosado is correct. Yeah, there are pictures from World Showcase with the cup. It is pretty funny. Apparently, Sean. Oh, I guess my dad probably already covered this ski channel. Apparently, Sean Thornton recently announced he's moving on from the Florida Panthers front office. Some free agent here are your free agent kickers. Free agent kickers that Joe Shad just listed on Twitter. Yeah, Rosado, I saw that you are in the league, and you're the only team manager who chose to go with the default team name. I think it's like Rosado's Amazing Team or Rosado's Astounding Team. So free agent kickers right now available for the Dolphins include Michael Badgley, Zane Gonzalez, Austin Seibert, Cade York, Eddie Pinheiro, and Matt Prater. So I'll let you guys discuss which of those kickers would be optimal for filling in for Jason Sanders. And the season hasn't started yet, but we already know the Dolphins won't have the following players for week 1. Jalen Wright, Jason Sanders, Kader Kohu, IR, Alexander Madison, IR, Artie Burns, IR, Jermaine Ifedi, IR, and probably it seems Liam Eichenberg and Ashton Davis. Colin says, I like the conference setup better for fantasy football. Well, thank you very much for letting me know, Colin. So then I will not pester Jaws to make any more changes to the settings. It will remain 4 points, passing touchdowns, and one Giants conference because my dad and I already took care of the major issue of trying to have a 20 team league. I ran a practice draft after like 3 or 4 rounds. 20 teams, 20 team league is an absolute nightmare. You end up drafting backups of backups by the ends of the draft because they're better than the remaining options. Colin says if it was 16 teams, then I think that divisions would be better then. Yeah. Well, then it would be just like a real NFL conference. So those free agent kickers, Michael Badgley, Zane Gonzalez, Austin Seibert, Cade York, Eddie Pinheiro, and Matt Prater, who do you trust to basically be able to kick extra points and field goal for a couple of weeks? Until Jason Sanders comes back. So ESPN is put out an article, predict the top 100 players for this season. It's their annual ranking of the league's top 100 players. Who do we project to be the best players in 2025? So I'll just skip to the top 25 players here. Number 25, Creed Humphrey, center, Chiefs. Number 24, Jaden Daniels, Commanders, quarterback. 23, Jordan Mailata, offensive tackle, Eagles. Number 22, Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Buccaneers. 21, Max Crosby, edge, Raiders. 20, Brock Bowers, tight end for the Raiders. Number 19, CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. 18, Jalen Carter, Eagles. 17, Saquon Barkley, Eagles. 16, Aiden Hutchinson, Lions. 15, Kyle Hamilton, Ravens. Number 14, Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, Lions. Number 13, Fred Warner, linebacker, 49ers. 12, Lane Johnson, offensive tackle, Eagles. Number 11, TJ Watt, edge Steelers. Number 10, Chris Jones, defensive tackle for the Chiefs. Number 9, Micah Parsons, Cowboys. Jamar Chase at number 8. Justin Jefferson, number 7. Pat Surtain, 2 at number 6. Joe Burrow, number 5. Lamar Jackson, number 4. Myles Garrett, number 3. Josh Allen, number 2. And, of course, they put Patrick Mahomes at number 1 after an absolutely mid-season last year. I swear to God, NFL, please do not let the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl. It's been announced Jason Sanders could miss 4 to 5 weeks. Bah. The Steelers kicker Ben Sauls, they plan to waive him if they can't trade him before Tuesday's cutdown, per sources. A former Pitt Panther, Sauls had a strong preseason, including going 4 of 4 on field goals Thursday night at Carolina. So, Ben Sauls, you might just be a Dolphin. Where did you see Jason Sanders being out 4 to 5 weeks? He is expected to be sidelined 4 to 5 weeks with a hip injury, according to Adam Schefter. Need a new kicker for the start of the season. You've got to be kidding me. So that means that Jason Sanders will not be available for against the Colts, Patriots, Bills, and Jets, and he might not be available. It's possible he's not available for the game against the Panthers. Of course, our starting kicker is not available when we have to play all of our divisional rivals at the start of the season. It's okay. The Dolphins can just get a kicker that can kick a ball through a couple of uprights. How hard can it be to find a kicker that can make kicks? Joe Mixon is out for the first 4 games of the season as he battles the foot injury. Joe Schad quoting Mike McDaniel on the Mike Hilton and Pharaoh Brown cuts. He says they can still play, but they're just good other players at those positions. So apparently Jason Marshall Jr. and Julian Hill must have really impressed McDaniel at training camp to be able to win their jobs over Mike Hilton and Pharaoh Brown. Right now, there is nothing finalized when asked about Jason Marshall solidifying slot corner, according to Mike McDaniel. Yeah, Joe Mixon is out for the first 4 games, which means it's likely that Nick Chubb is getting cut anytime soon. Oh, why can't the Dolphins stay healthy? 2 projected starting corners out for the year. Running back we picked up in free agency out for the year. Projected running back number 2 sidelined for at least a week. A couple of our offensive tackles potentially out a week or so. Our kicker out 4 to 5 weeks. Ugh. I swear if the Dolphins lose any of those games in the first few weeks because of our inability to kick, I will scream. So yeah, what is the game plan here now? Now that Jason Sanders is out for 4 to 5 weeks. Who did the Dolphins go get for kicker? Colin says Desmond Watson cut from the Buccaneers. I can't say I know who Desmond Watson is. Mhm. So yeah, now the Dolphins will be without Sanders for the first quarter of the season. There are some veteran there are some veteran kickers out there alive that the Steelers are trying to trade before he gets waived. Same with the other Sanders brother. Colin says Shiloh Sanders, as crazy as it sounds, might be a good option for the practice squad that can be elevated to the main 53-man roster. I don't know, Colin. Do you really want the Dolphins to be involved in any capacity in the Sanders circus? I mean, Shiloh Sanders just got cut for punching a dude in the middle of a game. It doesn't exactly scream maturity. Like, I know plenty of young players will make those kinds of mistakes, but very few of them have the same high profile of being, the son of Deion Sanders. Collins says he does play safety, which could be an option, knowing how many injuries there are in Miami. I mean, the Dolphins put up this big talk of, you know, resetting the culture. The culture change is one of the biggest reasons, I believe, why Jalen Ramsey was traded, because it was made very clear by Jalen Ramsey that he did not want to stay in Miami. And a lot of the players from very recent seasons are now gone. The defense, the secondary is pretty much entirely brand new. Mike Hilton was the most tenured guy left in the corner room, and he just got cut. So one of the Dolphin fans replied to the tweet about Ben Saul's being planned to be waived if the Steelers can't trade him before Tuesday. The guy asked Steelers fans, "Is he good?" The one said, "If any team that gets him will be fortunate." Best kicker in college football last year, in his opinion. Jason Marshall Jr. is another option at corner. And apparently, Jason Marshall Jr. played well enough to give Mike Hilton the boot from the 53-man roster, so he better be good. Oh, why? Why did we have to lose Jason Sanders? The dude is the dude has been MVP of more than one game. Remember that game against the Cowboys? Like the one and only time the Dolphins have beaten, one of the few times the Dolphins have beaten a team above 500 in the McDaniel era. That was Jason Sanders, his star game. Apparently, quotes says, concern about Jason Sanders, grew in the building in the last 20, leading to testing today, and now they know it's a hip injury and he's out 4 to 5 weeks. So, how in the hell does a kicker suffer a non-contact hip injury that sidelines him for an entire month? What sort of third-rate doctors, or I should say, training and conditioning guys do they have on that Dolphins staff? Steelers have released veteran kicker Matthew Wright per league source. Rookie Ryan Fitzgerald petition. So so that's another apparently solid option for Miami. So yeah, so what do the Dolphins do? Please, Dolphins, don't don't go cheap on whoever you for the replacement kicker. So yeah, what does what does this how does the situation unfold here? Per Mike McDaniel, Kenneth Grant's status for week one is not in question. The rookie will make his debut in Indianapolis. Thank God. We better have that dude on the field, Kenneth Grant. So yeah. Mhm. So Mike McDaniel apparently plans to bring in kickers for tryouts, with Sanders expected to miss the opener versus the Colts. Yeah, I wonder who they'll bring in. So at least Kenneth Grant is not in danger of missing week one. Thank the Lord. Darren Waller is expected to ramp up his practice participation this week, per McDaniel. He has, quote, continued his progression. Will be seen more and more this week. So yeah. So as it turns out, there's both some pretty good and pretty terrible news for the Dolphins fans. Arg. Right now, there is nothing finalized about Jason Marshall taking the slot corner position, but apparently he must have done really well to boot out Mike Hilton. Austin Jackson still on path for week one. So yeah, what else? What else is there left to? What else is there left to discuss? I still got a few more minutes to burn. Like, it is highly unfortunate losing Jason Sanders for 4 to 5 weeks. Ugh. Well, that just puts more pressure on the offense to not stall out and have to settle for field goals. I mean, Waddle and Hill should be able to give us good touchdowns, right? So yeah, I guess there isn't really much left to say. Like, every often they're reporting out apparently apparently Jason Sanders got hurt in pregame war. That's what happened. So the Lions waived defensive lineman Mitchell Good. The current Texans backfield with no Joe Mixon to start the year. Nick Chubb, Damian Pierce, Gumbalway, Woody Marks, British Brooks, Jawar Jordan. Okay, at least two of those names are just made up, right? The Commanders released Michael Gallup, Essane Bassi, Nick Harris, Tyre Phillips, Norwell Pollard, and Braylon Sanders. Hello. The party's over, Bubba says number 73 lost in traction. I am not sure what that's supposed to mean. But hello, thank you for joining me. I've still got a few more minutes left and then I'll be signing off. The stream of Dolphins news has slowed down to nothing. The roster cuts deadline is tomorrow at 4 p.m. So I will be going live tomorrow at 3 to cover basically anything else that happens leading up to that deadline with all the 53-man roster cuts. So yeah, there's just not much left to go over. We all know. Let's see any more roster cuts been announced? It's right now the current roster cuts are Aaron Shamklin, Mike Hilton, Jalen McKenzie, Mike Boone, Carmen, Ben Still, Mason Brooks, Ethan Robinson, Addison West, AJ Henning, which apparently was one of the toughest wide receiver room cuts the Dolphins have had to make in a while, Pharaoh Brown, Chris Myrick, and Cameron Dantzler. The Steelers have released Cameron Johnston, the punter. Let's see. David Ferrone says, name an available kicker you'd like to see the Miami Dolphins bring in as Jason Sanders' early season. Ben Sauls, Pittsburgh just cut him after going perfect in the preseason. Pinero, he could have the NFL record. Cade York. So yeah, all right. I think I will go ahead and sign off now. And I will be back to do the 53-man roster cut madness deadline stream tomorrow at 3 EST. The deadline is at 4, so I will be live for the entire hour before the deadline and then half hour up to a half hour after the deadline. So, yeah, I will go ahead and sign off for now. Thank you all for joining me. And yeah, we are so close to actual football. So close. Please, God, let this be a decent season of football, not just Dolphins, but all around. All right. See you next time. See you tomorrow.